Get rich fast with csgofast.com.
The 9th major ESL One Cologne has just started, and we actually have one of the matches already behind us. The all-Danish match behind us. Astralis coming out on top of Dignitas. First of all, I obviously want to get back to ECS because you guys finished in 7th to 8th place, like losing to Cloud9. Definitely not very successful run there. How much did that actually kind of affect your confidence going into the major?
I did like a short interview with Astralis, like our own page, when we finished that one, and I just explained what I wanted to do, basically, and we had a lot of team talks, and I was really vocal this time because I felt like we needed changes, but it wasn't like big changes. What we've been doing is just going back to basics. Also, we're playing with gla1ve, so going back to basics is actually easier with a new player. Not overthinking all of our tactics, but more playing on map control and not making the errors that we have done, like over-peaking and stuff like that is something we have lost a lot of games on, and that's just basically what we've trained now. I don't think it affected our confidence because we know like going into this major we're not really like expected to do anything. Like, of course we want to go out of the group, or not out of group, like go through, and we feel like we have a group where it's possible, and now with the first game in the back, like our confidence is even higher.
So I think you've already kind of touched on it before, considering you have to have the stand-in. So is it the goal just to advance from groups and just kind of see what goes on after that?
I mean, my goal at every major is probably to hit the final, and it's the same here. I feel like even though we're playing with a stand-in, the way we prepared has actually made it possible for us to go at least to the semi-final as we've done before, and possibly to the final. We've had a lot of good results, and I mean, practice is practice, but we feel pretty well prepared, yeah.
Yeah. So how did things go with gla1ve? I think you've used about 5 or something like that days at the bootcamp, and Kirby was there as well. So kind of like run us through the bootcamp.
Yes, we made a lot of changes, right? And the changes was just that gla1ve's actually like just straight out copying whatever Kirby is doing, and we have made a lot of new things. So with Kirby there, we didn't have to go through it like 2 times, so he knows it, and the things we already do, he can explain that to gla1ve while we do a lot of new stuff and work on that. And we've actually like been working really hard, playing like 8 to 10 hours a day, probably around there. And having him around at a boot camp and not playing with him is really, it's a shame because he fits so well into the team, but I feel like gla1ve has a big impact as well.
So obviously his experience has to help. He's been playing ever since the start of CS:GO, been the part of the initial like Western Wolves roster. Is he really adapting well to kind of Kirby's role, which is obviously not a role fit that well for him specifically?
He is really good at adapting to different roles. He's a team player. You can feel it from the start when you start playing with him. I know him since Source. He's always been the guy that like not really he does the dirty work as well if he has to, but he can adapt to like any role basically, and he fits it really well. And if it means that he's not as comfortable in that role, it doesn't show on his gameplay. Maybe he thinks that, I don't think so, because he hasn't been vocal about it, but he still manages to like play on his best, as you saw against Astralis, Dignitas, I mean.
Yeah, let's run through the group. CLG, Gambit, and Dignitas you've already beaten, obviously. What do you think about the group overall?
I mean, I think this time is the first time they actually did the group draw live at a major, and seeing how it panned out, I'm really sad. Like this major isn't as important as all the other majors in the way that we're playing with a stand-in without the pressure. So seeing a group with probably the 3 best teams in the world is something that it doesn't even make me happy. I would like them to be in the playoffs. They deserve it, all of them. I feel like our group is probably the weakest group at a major, other than we've had another easy group at DreamHack Winter 2014, which was the iBuyPower with changes, Copenhagen Wolves when Titan got kicked, and Penta. And it's kind of the same here. I feel like I'm not going to underestimate the other teams. Obviously they're really good, but just looking at the other groups, it's pretty easy to say that we have the weakest.
All right. Now, obviously, as you said, the Group D is super hard to predict. But do you have like a top 4 that you think should go to the semifinals?
Semifinals, I mean, I like SK, the old LG. I have big hopes for them as well. I think they'll go to the semifinals, and then it's so hard to predict, right? But I have a feeling that like 2 of the Group D people are obviously gonna go to the semifinals, either Fnatic or G2. I think Fnatic probably. Like always at majors, they tend to show up, especially when they kind of fail in the last major. They always are really good at the next one, so they're probably going to be there as well. I would say us. Obviously, I'm a little bit biased there, and actually an IP probably.
So out of the remainder, who do you see as like the biggest underdog who could actually surprise us all?
It's so hard to say, right? Because we haven't really played all of the good teams, because we have been early out of a lot of like tournaments now. Regarding preg results, I would say Liquid is actually up there. They're playing really well with Symbol and letting him do his thing. Envious is a wild card, you never know. They played really well at E-League. We haven't practiced them at all. So yeah, I would say those 2 teams are like the underdog, whatever.
Okay, that's pretty much it. Thank you very much as usual. Do you have any last words, shoutouts?
Yeah, thanks to all the supportive fans, obviously, and I mean, like every support matters, even though sometimes it's criticism, but I try to take everything to me and work on it.
Okay, actually, now I thought about the last question, which is obviously this op change that you had on Overpass. Who came up with it, and what's like the thinking behind it?
Like, I was pretty confident or like comfortable playing with the AWP, but we needed some changes in the structure. We wanted Kerrigan to be in the center of Overpass, and like me having as a lurker on A side, I played that a lot alone, and I get pretty good reads on how they play their setup. So for me, it fits me really well. It's not like we have changed on all maps, but we just centered him in Overpass to have him like to control Dupree and now gla1ve or Kjaerbye, like a lot more, to be able to like keep them not motivated, but keep them going, like so they play fluid.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so that's pretty much it. Thank you again. So this was the first interview from ESL One Cologne Day 1. Make sure to stick with hltv.org, as we're going to put out more coverage in the coming hours and days.